Ebere Eze. My hero, my mate. A Palace player has not scored for England since 1976. So you best believe I'm going to rinse that for every single drop of fun that it has in it. What does that mean? I don't know. All right, let's talk about England's shape tonight. Okay, much more of an indication, I think, of how we're going to play under Thomas Tuchel moving forward, more so than the Albania game. I think the shape itself worked really well. If you can go from back to front, Konsa and Gahey, I really like that as a centre-back partnership. I know that it doesn't necessarily have the same like star power that maybe like John Stones and Maguire did in terms of kind of like elite, like, I don't know how to describe it. Something that kind of feels like a world-class ability. Harry Maguire's ball carrying and set pieces felt like he was like one of the best in the world at that. John Stones obviously like progressive passing, all-round play. Gahey and Konsa don't quite have that X factor, but they are so intelligent as a pairing. I think the way they work together is really good, and they seem so calm, so collected. I thought the way Konsa won fouls today was brilliant. Gahey, as we've seen for England, is brilliant. Those two together, I think, could be a really solid partnership moving forward. I'd love to see them play in like a more competitive game than tonight. The fullback pairing of James and Lewis Skelly. I mean, let's start with Lewis Skelly. Lewis Skelly, I think, was brilliant tonight. And yes, it's Latvia. Again, it's very difficult to judge teams, I think, when they're playing against someone who is as bad as Latvia or even Albania to an extent. But the dynamic of Lewis Skelly coming into midfield and Rashford then hugging the touchline and being isolated against the fullback was perfect. It was absolutely perfect. He's just so calm, isn't he, for like an 18, 19-year-old Lewis Skelly. I think he's got a really bright future for England. Potentially in midfield too, not just at left back. There was one pass he played actually in midfield in the second half that went through to Bellingham straight away, just like bang through the lines. England don't have many players that can do that, but Lewis Skelly absolutely can. The dynamic of him tucking into midfield, freeing up the left winger, and then Reece James playing as a more like traditional right back that goes like up and down. I think that full-back dynamic is what England should do moving forward. It just depends which way round you do it, because obviously when Trent and Saka are fit, I think there's a very valid argument then to have Trent tucking into midfield, Saka hugging the right touchline, and then you'd have to have a more traditional left back, which I don't think Lewis Skelly is. That's probably more of a Lewis Hall job. Either way, to have that flexibility tactically, to have both of those players, or like, you know, right back playing traditional, left back playing traditional, and then players tucking in like that. We could do that on either side, depending on the winger. That is a real luxury. Reece James, if Reece James was, I know by the way, his free kick today was ridiculous, like literally perfect. One of the best free kicks I've ever watched, I think, live, just in terms of the technique. Like, it was beautiful. I do think he lacks the legs. Like, you can see that his legs are going a bit, probably from all the injuries. If this was Reece James from like 2021, we'd win the lot, mate. We'd win the treble. You can't win the treble as an international team, but you get what I mean. I do worry a little bit if he was up against, like, I don't know, Barcola, for example. Like, is Reece James going to be able to handle that assignment? Not defensive ability-wise, but physically, I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. But I thought he was brilliant. If he can be that up and down option on the right, that's brilliant. I actually am quite sad that Livramento didn't get a chance tonight. I think he would have been good, and he fits that role really well. But overall, I think the back four was really good. I think that's very similar to what we are going to see moving forward. I think Konsa and Gahey is the one I really want to see. The midfield. I thought Morgan Rogers looked really good. I think Rogers is exactly what you need in an international football. I've spoken a lot about player profiles, and I think in attackers, you need people who are just really good at ball carrying and very physical and very versatile. I think those players can make a real difference in a game when you're chasing it or when you're defending a lead and you just need someone who can like break. And Rodgers, I think, is perfect for that. I think he played obviously a bit centrally, he played a bit on the right later in the game too. Really bright future. I thought he was pretty solid. I don't think he was anything special today. Neither was Bellingham, who I think had a pretty poor game by his standards. But I think we'll see a lot of Rodgers moving forward, that England team, which I was a big fan of. Rashford was interesting because even though he didn't have a great game, especially on the left, I didn't like the switch to the right. Didn't think that made any sense. Even though Rashford didn't have a great game on the left-hand side, I thought what he was trying to do was exactly what England have been missing for a really long time on that left. And I know people really like Anthony Gordon and think he's really good. I personally am not completely sold on him just because I don't think he has that same drive and like bravery to go and beat a man and like actually do a bit of skill to take someone on. And yes, Rashford often wasted the final ball tonight and he'll have to get better at that. But his player profile is perfect. And his run of form next season going into the 2026 World Cup could be the difference actually between England winning the World Cup and England not winning the World Cup. I think if we can have a genuine all-round Saka-esque threat on that left, which Rashford is at his best. At Rashford's best, he's one of the best left wingers in the world. England will be a serious proposition. As I said, having Lewis Skelly tucking in and Rashford going wide on that left, I thought it was really good. It also offered England a lot of control in the middle because Lewis Skelly is so good on the ball. He's a midfielder, right? He's basically a Zinchenko-style left-back in that sense. He's used to playing midfield. Him tucking in, controlling the midfield, with Bellingham and Rice and with Rodgers, and having Rashford out there made England very difficult to deal with offensively, but also to actually break down when Latvia got the ball, which was really positive. I thought Bowen was decent. I sometimes forget what Jarrod Bowen plays like, because in my head he's like a traditional winger, but he actually wants to get narrow a lot, which again worked really nicely with Reece James bombing up outside him. I think with a potentially more dynamic right back, Bowen would have had a bit more joy, because Reece James wasn't going around him that often, like as often as Reece James historically has done for Chelsea or for England in the past. Again, as I said, he's not quite got the legs to do that. So I think Bowen suffered a little bit as a result, but I thought he was much better on the right than Rashford was in the second half. And Kane's obviously Harry Kane. We don't need to make any comments about Harry Kane. But Ebere Eze, unironically, was brilliant when he came on. And the thing I liked about Eze was he did very similar to what Rashford was doing, which was just get the ball, beat the man. I know his goal took a massive deflection, but the way he jinked past him like 2 or 3 times, sending him in different directions, that is what you need in a player off the bench, okay? I've spoken a lot about player profiles, okay? And I got slated last week for saying that Eze is a better fit in the England squad than Morgan Gibbs-White if they're competing for the same position, which you could definitely debate that they're not. I think Gibbs-White maybe is probably going to play a bit deeper for England, maybe in like the Jordan Henderson role that he came on. I'm quite surprised Gibbs-White didn't get minutes in that, actually, in that role. But if you're going to be an attacker off the bench for England, which Gibbs-White and Eze will both be, it's a different skill set to playing in the Premier League every week. And what I mean by that is, yes, Morgan Gibbs-White has had a way better season than Eze. I'm not going to try and dispute that at all. He definitely has been better than Eze this season. But what he's doing for Forest is he is the heartbeat of not just the attack, but that whole team. He's conducting things. He's leading every single attack. He is never, ever going to have to do that for England. Ever. Unless something goes drastically wrong fitness-wise with Bellingham, Palmer and Foden, okay? He is behind those 3, at least, in the number 10 position in terms of the dictator of the game. So what do you need to be if you're going to be an attacker off the bench for England? You need to have, what I said, a player profile of, give me the ball, I'll make something happen out of nothing. I'll beat my man, I'll get a shot away, I'll drive into the box. I don't need a lot of time on the ball. I don't need lots of players making runs off me. I can just get the ball and make something happen. Ebere Eze is brilliant at that. And that is why I think he is in the England squad in the first place, because he's not had a very good season. I was surprised to see him in the squad, even as the most biased Palace fan on the planet. I didn't think he deserved a place in the squad on form alone. But what he offers player profile-wise is perfect for international football. And I think Rodgers is kind of similar. Rodgers is a bit more of a polished version and a bit more of a versatile version, but he's the same. If you want to chase a game and you need to break down the defence, you can just put Rodgers on either wing and he'll make something happen. And that is what Eze does so well. He took his goal brilliantly. Yes, I know it took a deflection, but the way he actually got that shot away, drove into the box, England don't have many players that can do that. And that is why Eze is in the squad. It was very nice not just to see a Palace player score a goal for England, which they did. I'm just going to remind you of that right now. But I was proven right. And honestly, that's probably better. It's probably better. I think next international break, I'd like to see how the team works with Trent and Saka on that right-hand side and how much it affects the left-hand side, because obviously Lewis Skelly inverting into midfield, I don't think that works with Trent doing that too, really, unless Declan Rice is coming a lot further backwards, which could happen. That could happen. But I'd be interested to see how we set up with Saka and Trent, because Saka obviously is the priority in the attack and he needs to take precedence. So how does that then affect the left-hand side? Do you need to maybe adjust the setup on that side? Do you need to have a Lewis Hall there and, I don't know, maybe someone coming a bit narrower? Does Rashford just come a bit narrower? I don't know. Or maybe Rodgers can play a bit narrower. I think Rodgers could actually work really well there as like a slightly inverted left winger with a left back overlapping him. That's what I'd like to see next time on either wing, actually. I'd quite like to see Palmer get some minutes as well. I know he was injured, but I'm quite interested to see how he fits into the team, whether he'd be another 8 with Bellingham, because I think Bellingham as a left 8 does work well. I know he didn't have his best game tonight. I just worry that Palmer lacks intensity and physicality to play next to Bellingham and like doesn't have the legs to cover for him. You don't want Bellingham being the primary one who's having to cover defensively. Even though he's very good at doing that, he needs some freedom to stay forward a bit. And I think Rodgers, although he's not a great defender, can at least like physically challenge a man running backwards. I don't know if Cole Palmer could do that. And as I said, centre-back partnership-wise, Is it going to be Konsa and Gahey moving forward? I think I was just so impressed with Konsa tonight. And obviously, I love Gahey and he's been brilliant for England. I do want Branthwaite to get a game with that left centre-back. And is it Gahey or Konsa who plays with him? I don't know. We've got a nice actual competition now in that position, which we've not had for a really long time. And does John Stones walk straight back into the team? I don't know if he does. I think Ezri Konsa, in the last 2 games, has played himself into the right centre-back role, deservedly so. And it's his to lose now, I would say. Look, obviously Latvia and Albania are not brilliant teams. I'm not going to pretend that we've just watched us, blow away 2 fantastic teams. They're both pretty average, and we've not been especially convincing in either game. But Thomas Tuchel has only been he's probably trained with this England team for less than a day, in total. So it's going to take a long time for him to get his ideas across. But I think that was promising because we saw some new players perform well. I think Lewis Skelly at left back could be huge. We've needed a left back for so long, and Ebere Eze making an impact off the bench, and that's not even biased to say that. That is just the stuff of dreams, ladies and gentlemen. It's the stuff of dreams. Anyway, let me know what you think in the comments down below. Who do you want to have more minutes next time? Who do you think played well? Who do you think didn't play that well over the last few games? Let me know in the comments down below. Like and subscribe too. I'm going to be posting a bit more on here. I think this casual setup is a much better suited to me because editing a video is a long bit. I can't be bothered to do that. Like and subscribe, share this with your friends, and catch you on the next time in this lovely green chair that I have. Green jumper too. There's a plant there. It's also green.